Jen Gaster from HR Heads, and I am very delighted to welcome Jess Badley from Blood Cancer UK. Jess is currently the Head of Human Resources and OD with Blood Cancer UK. Jess, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Um, we run a series of big interviews, and I've kindly coerced you into speaking with me today, just to sort of get a sense of what's going on, both in the agenda from an HR perspective, but also the organisation. So, Jess, perhaps we could just start with, how did you get into human resources? Was it something you actively pursued, or did you fall into it and end up carving that career for yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I guess a bit of both, actually. So it absolutely wasn't a career that I thought I would end up in. Yeah, coming out of university, HR wasn't an option I'd ever thought about, actually. So I started off more in general management, kind of operations. So I always had HR as part of my roles, but there was also always finance, project management, estates, office services, all of those types of aspects of a role.
Yeah.
And then gradually, I just realized that for me, the part of my work I really loved was the people aspect. So recruiting great people, developing them, and this idea that you can create a really amazing workplace culture. So I decided I was going to study for my level 7 CIPD qualification. And then in 2016, I moved into my first pure HR role.
Amazing, amazing. And you haven't looked back since, clearly. Um, we've all been through, a hell of a couple of years. I think it's fair to say I personally am sick of talking about Brexit, furlough, and COVID. But what is, looking forwards, what is on the agenda for you from an HR perspective in the coming 1 to 2 years that you're really passionate about and championing?
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, it is that trying to really create a great place to work.
Yeah.
So for me, that focuses on well-being, on making sure that our organisation really lives by our values, and that's how we make decisions. Um, and also around agile and hybrid working, because I think all of those things together, they work really well together. And if you get them right, you create a really great workplace for people.
So it's about becoming that employer of choice and that destination organization that sucks people in, but also keeps them. So recruitment retention is important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, especially with our wellbeing strategy, our aim has always been that managing, especially in these circumstances, isn't enough. We really want people to be able to thrive if they can.
Yeah.
Because, of course, we want everyone to thrive because you're at work a lot of your working, a lot of a week, never mind a working week. So we
Yeah.
want that to be a great experience.
Yeah. And just touching on well-being, you are very recently award winning in your position. So many congratulations. I think I'm right in saying it's the Culture Pioneer Awards, and you won the category for well-being. Are you able just to share with us the things that you have implemented that perhaps earned you that accolade?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we have we kind of use that starting point, like I was saying, of we really want our employees to be thriving at work. And so that's our baseline of what do we need to do to really support our employees. And for us then, that has to be part of our organizational culture. Wellbeing can't just be an add-on
Hmm.
that when you've got a bit of time for, you do. So for us then, that means really embedding it in the nuts and bolts of an organization. So for example, making sure it's very clear in every policy, that it's embedded in our performance management process, that it's recognizable in our values themselves, but also in all of our work on equality, diversity, inclusion, and also really clear in our benefits offer for all of our staff.
Okay. I think a lot of people talk about well-being as a one-dimensional thing as well. It's almost that just emotional or psychological well-being. But you and I have talked before, and there are many facets of that. So it sounds like when you talk about it being part of every policy, you're talking about financial well-being, physical well-being, emotional and mental well-being, and all the other aspects that fall into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, often probably a lot of people start with mental health, and that's
Yeah.
obviously a huge part of well-being. But exactly like you said, there are lots of other aspects that feed into that. So, for example, if when you start looking at your digital well-being as an organization, it becomes really clear there's lots of practical things you can do to really support people's mental health. So I think, yeah, they all can work really well together once you're able to start pulling that strategy together.
And what tips would you give someone watching or listening to this that might be thinking, actually, that's on my agenda as an HR practitioner moving into 2022? Where would you advise them that they start, perhaps?
Yeah, sure, because it can feel overwhelming, right? And
Yeah,
we were all
it's a huge topic.
it is. It's absolutely huge. And I think I would absolutely sympathize with anyone who maybe has quite a small team, who has a huge workload already, because, yeah, in HR, there's always loads of things you want to do and there's not enough hours in a week. So you have to prioritize. I think the things that I learned and my team learned was that if you ask all of your colleagues in the organization what is the most helpful for them right now, that helps give you a really clear steer in terms of which aspect of well-being you might look at first.
Yeah.
Also, it might surprise you. So, of course, the things you think might be really important to people might not be. So, asking, I think, is a great way to do that. And you
And how did you do that? Was that a survey you ran, or a digital piece, or a drop your note into the box type of thing?
Yeah, so we did a couple of things. So yes, we did do just a really easy free survey that everyone can fill in anonymously.
Yeah.
Um, what we also did as a second stage was once we got that initial feedback, we then put it together and said, right, it looks like these are the four pillars for this year. But then we circulated that to everyone as well and said, what do you think? Does this look right to you? Have we missed something, or did you not just have a chance to do the survey? So we gave everyone kind of a couple of opportunities to tell us what they needed.
Yeah. Okay. And that check-in sort of ratified the decisions then that you made around those pillars.
Yeah, it did. And I think also it helped because when we first did that, we were really only just starting the conversation about well-being in a meaningful way. And I think having the second prompt actually then just generated more ideas for people. So we
Yeah.
just got, a wealth of ideas and suggestions, some of which we're still building into next year's plan. So yeah, it was really great.
Okay. So beyond a survey, perhaps a temperature check of the organization, as I always think of them, what else practically would somebody need to be thinking about to address this next year?
So I suppose as well, it's really worth thinking about the resources that are available to you, well, for free in a lot of cases, especially in the
Okay.
wellbeing space. I definitely have found that a lot of experts, practitioners, people that do this day to day are very happy to share ideas and share resources for free, which is, of course, helpful. Um, and I think as well, that means you don't have to do everything yourself. So if you want to run a training session for your team, you absolutely can write it yourself, but there's also lots of people who will help share, come and do sessions, etc. So I think definitely having a look at what's out there
Yeah.
is really helpful if you're a busy team. Yeah,
Abusing the network is the way I like to think about it. But I think you're
definitely.
right. People are passionate about the subject, and they're more than happy to share what they've implemented, how they've done it, where they start, and hence this conversation. I think it's just cathartic sometimes for professionals to lean on each other, and gain that knowledge. And many organizations, and your job title is indicative of it. You're not a well-being specialist, and yet you've won an award for it. So I think wearing multiple hats, but then leaning on people that might have worn that hat a little bit longer always helps. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think so, definitely.
Okay. And then obviously it was great to have that award, but what then do you look at? You've indicated there were four pillars that you addressed, but there are pillars perhaps you've rolled over to the what next. So where does your focus go then, and how do you bring that into the business?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so the pillars we've identified for next year, um, I guess we're sort of honing down a little bit now. So, like I said, we'd started to look at digital well-being. So we did quite practical advice for our staff. So things like, how do you switch off at the end of a day if you're in the same room?
Yeah.
Um, we did very practical things like that. But actually, what we're going to look at at the start of next year is a lot more on digital wellbeing and really kind of giving people tips and techniques on how to manage that, but also really thinking about our organisational approach to that as well. We're going to do a series of workshops on financial wellbeing, so covering everything from savings, investments, buying a house, planning ahead, retirement, all of those sorts of topics. And then we're also going to look at men's health. We've already started a programme of work with Bloody Good Period. They have an employer scheme they're launching, and we've also been doing some work on menopause as well. So we're going to really carry on all of those strands through the next year.
Nothing to get you busy at all there. Okay. And obviously that filters into your human resources agenda. But what about Blood Cancer UK as an organisation? They, I mean, more than most, I imagine, have gone through a really tough couple of years. COVID cannot have made your life very easy as an employer, but as an organization. And I think from our conversations previously, you're UK wide, but actually you're a very lean organization with about 100 or so employees scattered across that space. So what lies ahead for you, and what is on the agenda for the organization as a whole?
Yeah, so like you said, yep, it's it has been a really difficult couple of years, but we've really come through it fighting. And for us, the blood cancer community is at the centre of everything. So every decision, everything we do. We've had some really huge successes with our vaccine task force that we've set up this year. So for us, it's really important that anyone with blood cancer or anyone that knows anyone or supports anyone with blood cancer has as much up-to-date information and support as they possibly can. So that will remain a really core part of our work through the next year. And I think obviously as a charity, we have to fundraise, so we don't get any government funding. And obviously during the pandemic, as every charity has found, fundraising has gone down. So for us, it's really about thinking, okay, so how do we adapt? What are the new fundraising streams that we could look at? Are we being as efficient as we possibly can? At the same time, making sure that our staff don't overwork, because I'm so lucky to work with this really committed group of people. But yes, sometimes people want to do more than they can fit in a week, and the wellbeing agenda, of course, has to stay front and centre. And then the other two big things that we're looking at. So one is how we are managing our flexible and hybrid working. So we are, I think, really progressive, I guess, with this. So what we say to our staff is, it doesn't matter to us where you work. Your location isn't important. We focus on objectives and outputs. And obviously, as people get more choice in where they can work location wise, then we'll just learn how we really make that work well for everybody in the team. And a key reason for that is because equality, diversity and inclusion is also remains a really key priority for us, both internally, so what our staff team looks like, how inclusive we are with everybody, but also externally as well, because we know that we will only beat blood cancer if we beat it for everybody, not just a section of the population.
Yeah. And I think, that ED&I piece feeds into the talent pool as well, doesn't it? Because actually, if you do have a policy that says you can work anywhere as long as you work, and you work effectively, as long as it works for the organisation as much as it does you as a human being, it might just open up what that talent pool looks like. And I imagine people want to work with Blood Cancer UK because it's a vocation, because it's something they're really passionate about. So that might just broaden the opportunity to attract the best talent into the organisation moving forwards.
Yeah, I think so. We've definitely seen that over the past year. Since we've changed to that approach, we've got these fantastic people that otherwise never would have been able to work for us before, and we'd have missed out on all that talent. So I think it's been really great from that point of view, and we absolutely can trust our staff to make those decisions. So
to
there's no
embrace
reason
it.
we wouldn't.
Yeah, we've done exactly the same. And actually our business 2 years ago was set up in a geographical model, and we completely just binned it because people can work anywhere, anytime. And we've gone to a practice model and it's been much more effective. And I think the whole sense of the working world will transition in that way, whether they have yet or not. I think it's coming. And then let me just finally ask you, Jess, what can we do to help? Blood Cancer UK, as you say, is a charity. It's faced challenges around fundraising because of access and COVID. I imagine you have a tranche of volunteers. I imagine you take donations, but I imagine also people want to give blood. And how is the best way for people to engage, perhaps with the organisation and be useful moving forwards?
So lots of ways, I would say, depending on what they want to do. Um,
Okay.
and I would say actually that the first thing is that blood cancer is the UK's third biggest cancer killer, but actually awareness and understanding of it is often lower than for other types of cancer. So if you do nothing else, please have a look at our website, because the signs and symptoms of blood cancer are on there, and
Okay.
most people often aren't familiar with those. There is loads of information on the website as well around our research and our support services, so anybody can access those at any point. And like you said, volunteers are absolutely vital for us as an organisation. So again, if you go to the website, that gives lots of information about all the different ways you could do that. So for example, if you might want to fundraise for us, there are absolutely loads of opportunities actually. So we have community groups all over the country that you can join and take part in. It might be taking part in a sports challenge. Like I said, there's lots of opportunities and lots of ideas around fundraising on the website, and we've got a team that you can contact who will support you the whole way through. So it doesn't matter where you live, there are
Okay.
many different opportunities.
And that's bloodcancer.org.uk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
um,
Amazing. Are there other things you want to just get in there that you have an opportunity to?
of course. So if you are able to donate, it makes a huge difference to us. We do directly fund research into curing blood cancer, so your donations make a real impact to us. To give you an idea, £10 can allow researchers to analyse the genetic makeup of a blood cancer cell, and that really helps to increase our understanding of how blood cancer develops and therefore how we can beat it. Also, we've got a couple of vacancies open right now. So if you think working with us sounds fun, then please have a look at that and maybe apply.
And that's on your website as well.
That's right. Everything's on the website.
Amazing. Amazing. Jess, you, as always, have been an absolute superstar, and your insight is really valuable. And I know our audience of both established and aspiring HR individuals will be really keen to digest all of that. So I'm going to thank you very much for your time. And we'll be sharing this on LinkedIn. So with your permission, we'll just put your LinkedIn connection there so people can jump onto that. And hopefully, if they have any further questions, they can just pick up with you directly.
Absolutely. That would be great. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jess. I really appreciate it.